Hi everyone. So recently, I think you all might have got information with respect to the move that has been taken by again the keeper of the world peace, United States of America, and the great king, President Donald Trump. And they have attacked one more nation recently, and it's a no-brainer, I think, right now to think that the person who is heading US currently would be craving for another Nobel Peace Prize again, even though he didn't got any Nobel Prize, even though he's being supported by the country like Pakistan. So what actually have taken place? Let's talk about it one by one, and let's try to understand that what was the reason which made United States of America to attack, or I would say invade, Venezuela, who is a sovereign country being led by a president. Let's talk about it. So let's talk one by one what made United States of America to attack over the sovereign land of Venezuela. So it all took place on the night of, or I would say the early morning of 3rd of January 2026. The geopolitical landscape on that night completely changed and altered by the United States of America when they started Operation Absolute Resolve in order to capture the President Maduro and his wife. Even though the actions are being even criticized by their own newspaper, for example, even the New York Times has reported this, that calling this incident as unwiseful. But still, if you are the president of United States of America, there is nothing that is illegal for you. Even UN will change its law for you, and there is nothing like UN Charter which will stop you to make attack over any sovereign country like Venezuela. So let's talk about in detail what made him to attack over the Venezuela. It didn't happen on just on that one night. It was all a planned attack over the Venezuela in order to capture their president and to establish their own puppet government, or in order to capture them. Because and recently we have seen that in a statement from Donald Trump in which he has said that USA will now run Venezuela. I think it's such a strange thing that in this 21st century we are watching that one country is again being invaded by another country. And I don't think it is the first time that United States of America attacked another country which hurt their interest or it is against their interest. Or I would say the main thing, that is oil, comes in between or may challenge their hegemony. That is why it is always, and I think that is the main theme of Make America Great Again. We continue lust for the imperialism and like talking things about capturing the Greenland, or like recently attack over the Venezuela, clearly depict those action that nobody in this world is now caring about the United Nations Charter, United Nations laws, and again the sovereignty of any country. So let's talk about now the person in interest, that is Nicolás Maduro. So, if we talk about the biography of the person, then he started as a bus driver and then later promoted to the trade union. And finally, he became the foreign minister, then the vice president, and then finally became in 2013 the president of Venezuela. But it was not an easy path for him. But he was lucky because he got support of Hugo Chavez, the person who was also the former president of Venezuela. If we if we rewind back our story to 1990s, when that Hugo Chavez he tried for the military coup, but he got jailed at that time of the democratic government in Venezuela. But he got the people support because at that point of time the corruption was so peak that people supported him, and finally he became the president of Venezuela in 1998, which led Nicolas Maduro to become the foreign minister in 2006, which further elevated his position to vice president in 2011, and finally in 2013 he became the president of Venezuela. Things not always have been easy for him because at his tenure there were high inflation, and at the time from 2014 till 2021 the GDP of Venezuela shrank by 3 quarter, and the inflation was at its peak, which led to a lot of demonstration by the people. People were protesting against the regime of the Venezuela, and there were other issues he was facing. As I already mentioned, that things has not been easy for him. That is why in 2014 and 2017 there have been political unrest. Even in 2021, even he was accused of unlawful detention, and finally in 2024 when election happened he was accused of rigged election by the opposition, and even the US intervened and said that we don't accept him in as a president, and even the United Nations had mentioned about that rigged election, but still he continued as a president of Venezuela. That is what brought US into the picture. as US Department of Justice even labeled him with certain charges in 2016 and in 2026 too, as recently he's been accused of leading various drug cartels, various supporting various terrorist organizations which is being labeled by United States such as FARC. Even some of the United Nations body accused him of abusing human rights, and people of his own country calling him dictator. Even the US Department of Justice calling him a dictator, and that accused him that he is not ruling by the mandate of people through proper election. So that has been a major reason that why US has always opposed Venezuela. But now let's talk about that geopolitic angle. Let me tell you something first. Why US is interested in Venezuela? There have been the one major reason which I believe most of the people are aware of, even though informal writing which will never come, that is oil. Oil is very important here. If we talk about Venezuela landscape, then Venezuela consists of around 13% of the total world oil reserve. Yes, there are 13% of the total oil reserve, but still in the export they have less than 1% of the total world export in percentage in compared to the oil. Why it is? This is because the sanctions by the US. Why US sanction the oil of the Venezuela? There is another geopolitics angle. There is the entry of Russia and China. As you can clearly see, because of these sanctions by the United States, Venezuela has to look for another partner, and there came China and Russia. That again angered United States of America, which led to the further punishment of Venezuela by the United States, which finally in 2017 came in the form of sanctions by the US by sanctioning their state oil company, that is PDVSA, which finally in 2019 and 20 which have led to the further embargo by the United States, and finally it led to the complete destruction of the oil extraction companies of the Venezuela. But you might be questioning that why this production is still low, because the oil that is found in Venezuela, it is deep crude oil. It is harder to extract, and with the sanction by the United States, it is definitely impossible for a country to explore its oil reserve and export it to the foreign country. So this has been the major game which is being played between Venezuela and the United States of America. Even in the recent interview of Maduro, he even mentioned that he is ready to work with the Donald Trump, the president. But I think United States America's president don't want the presence of Maduro. That is why he recently seized the Venezuela. If we talk about the current status of Venezuela administration, then now it is being run by the vice president of Venezuela, who is acting as a president of Venezuela. But I think fate has already been decided, as recent statements had said that now Venezuela will be run by the United States of America. I don't think where the future lies, but I definitely see that there are going to be further invasions by all other countries in the world to another country, because I don't think UN has maintained in relevance in stopping the war. Some people are even calling about abolition of the United Nations. If you can't stop a single war in the 21st century, then what relevance are you of? So let's see where the fate of Venezuela lies. But I think as the current time goes, World War III is not far ahead. Thank you.